Feel rods to your backbone to take the weight and the
It
stress.
is. Let's get it rolling.
Good. All right, guys, we will get rolling here. Is Councillor Brown coming?
Yep, she is.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Swim lessons.
All right. Welcome everyone to this committee of the whole meeting. The third day of June 2025. It is now 5 p.m. So we will call this meeting to order. We'd like to do a land acknowledgement that the Town of Cardston acknowledges that we are located on traditional Blackfoot Confederacy territory. Are there any additions to this agenda from anyone?
I adopted.
Mayor has adopted the agenda as presented. Any questions? All in favor? Thank you. All right, we'll move right in. We have a couple delegations today. Miss Tammy Johnson will be presenting to us with a concern that she has for one of the businesses in town, and we'll hear her and go from there. Tammy, if you want to come on up to the lectern, and we'll get started.
Honorable Mayor, council members, thank you so much for taking time to hear this today. Last fall, it was late in the year, one of our tenants in 325 Main Street notified us that there was leaking that was coming from the roof. And we waited until the spring thaw for safety reasons, as well as, having the
Can you just pull the mic down just a hair?
Sure.
There we go. Perfect. I can't see your face.
Is that better?
There you
okay. go. Once we did get up there, we did notice that there was a lot of debris from the card home adjacent to our property. And some of the pictures, I think you'll note in the email that was sent to Jeff, it has caused pooling. It has caused, with the, the sap from the pine trees, it's actually eaten away at our roofing material. We have a rubberized roof. And all of these things combined have degraded the integrity of the roof. So I guess just to summarize, we are looking for the trees adjacent to our building to be removed, especially the pine trees. You'll notice in the photos that were included that they overhang our property by a considerable amount. And as well, the photos do indicate the amount of debris that we are seeing on an annual basis. The couple other notes, because we will have to send somebody up there to remove that, there's going to be costs that we're hoping that the town will also take care of once we get that underway, as well as the repair to the rubberized roof.
Okay. Any questions for anyone on the council? Councillor Granger?
Do you know how old the roof is?
The roof was repaired and, not repaired, but refurnished or refinished, I believe in 2021, before I came in 2022.
So the rubber material that you say is being eaten or degraded
Yeah,
was installed in 2022?
I believe so, yes.
Not old?
Not 2022, 2021.
2021, not older?
Not older, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? I just had a question. Are these pictures is that accumulation of this just this year? Is this now it's been 4
This is an annual thing that we need to, have it cleaned every year.
So it's been being cleaned every year?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Any questions? Okay, so we don't really discuss in this meeting. We'll discuss in our next meeting.
Excellent.
At this, and we'll get Jeff to get back to you, and we'll have a discussion about this. Obviously, something needs to be done, and to help, and we'll go from there.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That was probably our quickest delegation we've had since I've been on council. All right, guys, our second one is not here, so we'll just move along here. We have some minutes from our last committee of the whole that need to be adopted. Okay, Mayor? Mayor's making that motion. Any questions or changes anyone's noticed at all? Okay, all in favor? Thank you. And we'll move to bylaw and policy 5A, procedural bylaw, and we'll turn the time over to Jeff.
Thank you. Pull this up quick, Council. So, Council, you've had lots of discussion on this matter. At the last meeting, the last time we brought this, the version that we brought you simply said that you can attend electronically for the following reasons. And there was 3 or 4 reasons. And there was some discussion about the value in allowing for councillors to attend virtually in many cases. And so we kind of sat on this for a little while, and as I put in the backgrounder, there's a couple of things that it feels like you're trying to balance. One is that there's value in being able to attend electronically, and it's better that you're at a meeting than not at all. And there's value in being in the community and being close to the concerns of residents. So this very draft version that I put in the backgrounder is trying to balance those things more than the last couple drafts have. So it's trying not to swing the pendulum strong either way. It's taking into consideration things like the MGA. The MGA prohibits councillors from missing 60 consecutive days of meetings. But in your current bylaw, when you attend electronically, you're in attendance, so you're not missing those meetings if you attend electronically. So the current statement, or the current proposed statement for your discussion, is that a councillor may participate electronically in meetings in accordance with the bylaw. If you participate electronically, you're deemed to be present. No councillor shall attend more than 30 consecutive days solely by electronic means unless council passes a resolution. After 30 days, the councillor must be physically present at a meeting before resuming further electronic participation, again, unless council grants an exemption, and council retains discretion to approve longer periods of electronic participation in the case of illness or employment or other extenuating circumstances. And then the 60 days of the act would start ticking after the 30 days of electronic attendance if there was still no attendance by that councillor. So I just put that out there for your discussion and to see what the feeling is as far as trying to pull this together, and let me know what you think.
Thank you. Anyone want to open this one up? Mayor?
I will. I think that version is more palatable than the previous one. And I know that the whole issue with that bylaw and the review of it came to be because we had a councillor in our midst that had a lengthy period of time due to his need to be away with his wife and issues. And I appreciate all the work that was done electronically, but I also appreciate the desire of this council to value having a councillor elected in the community. I spoke to different people in the community, and it appeared to be a desire in the community to see councillors elected to be in the community most of the time, even if the councillor is available electronically or through chat or through Facebook or whatever. So I understand that there is definitely the need for a balance, and I would say this bylaw is actually fairly fair. It does not recognize all the good work you've done, Councillor, and I noticed that, but a bylaw is not meant to be for one person. It's meant to be for long term, and we do not know who else would be elected and would work the same way with the same ethics that you had. And that is the reason why this council seemed to favor a more balanced approach and with curtailing the use of electronics. So that's
Council-
what I see.
Councillor Brown?
No, for me, this has never been intended to. I think every member of this council has, or almost every member of this council has used Zoom. I have. I think we all have used Zoom at one time. So this, for me, definitely wasn't pointing out on anybody, because I think Councillor Granger has done a fantastic job, and I would never say otherwise. For me, this is looking ahead. And at the at the Alberta Municipalities Conference, I mean, it was the talk. Everyone was talking about, what's your council doing? The Cardston County, they just passed one. Fort McLeod just passed one. So everyone, we've all been put in this situation. So for me, I want it crystal clear that this isn't pointing at a finger. This is all municipalities, because of during COVID and the changes that were made. Everyone is trying to decide, where do we fail? How do we feel about this? And so I read this. I thought it was great. I just had one question, Jeff. So like you just stated, I'm gone for 30 days. I come back, or I'm gone for 30 days. I can't come back because of whatever. And so then it starts 60 days, because I have to be 60 days. So now it's 60 days, then what happens?
You're gone.
You
Just
no longer.
let me listen.
Yeah, so under the Act, any counselor that misses all the meetings in a 60-day consecutive period is dismissed
in
from
person.
council. Well, so that depends. So that depends what their bylaw says.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So if the bylaw doesn't allow for electronic attendance, and yes, if
Right.
you've missed all the meetings in 60 consecutive days, that's what happens.
But if the counselor has been online for 30,
Yep,
but they can't be in person
yeah,
for the next 60, let's say,
yep.
then,
They're not, under this draft.
Under
so
this.
They are not in attendance.
okay, thank you.
So there's a lot of, the devil's always in the details,
know.
right? And so there's a couple of things that I don't know how you would manage. We'd have to figure this out. So for example, I'll take your example,
Yeah.
Councillor. Councillor Court's gone for 30 days. The next meeting's coming up, and he can't quite get back,
Mm-hmm.
but he could attend electronically.
Mm-hmm.
Under this, he is not in attendance at that meeting.
Right.
He could attend, he could be in the gallery, but he can't participate, he couldn't make a motion, he wouldn't be considered in attendance as a counselor. Now, he may say, I just want all the context so that when I'm back, I'm up to
Yeah.
speed, so there's value for me in sitting in. That might very well be the case.
Yeah.
But technically, he would not be in attendance in that case.
Councillor Court, Councillor Burton.
So in effect, a counselor could have 90 days here then?
Correct, yes. So if, the difficulty is, Councillor, and this is an important difference, is if that counselor really wouldn't be participating at all for 60 straight days. And that's not a scenario we've ever encountered, right? We've never seen that. So they would have to literally no-show every meeting for 60 days. Now that provision, even if you didn't have any bylaw, let's say your bylaw was silent on council attendance, councillors under the Act can always show up for 59 days and then come to a meeting and then not show up for 59 days. I mean, provided your meetings fell on that schedule. I'm being a little bit overgeneralizing there. But the point is, when the Act specifies a time, if a councillor wants to, they can be gone for 60 days right now and then show up for a meeting and then be gone for 60 days. Now, we've never seen that, and I don't anticipate we would, but that is what the legislation allows.
Councillor Burton.
So Jeff, just to qualify a little bit on what you said.
Sure.
On that scenario, so after the 30 days, and the counselor, let's say, is trying to get back and they miss their flight or get stuck on an island somewhere, council could make the exemption
Sure.
to allow them, but they'd have to do that at the start of the meeting, otherwise they're in the gallery.
That's right. So yes, if it was something like, yeah, I broke down, I was going to be home by the meeting, I can attend electronically.
Yeah.
Well, and again, there's nothing, so let's say that there's nothing wrong with a counselor missing a meeting here and there. So if it's just, hey, you need to miss, all right, we'll miss. But if there was something where, I'll use Councillor Court again, he says, I really wanted to be at that meeting because I really wanted to vote on that matter.
Yeah.
Well, then a motion would be required so that he could vote on that matter.
Right.
But if it was, he's like, you know what, I think you know where I'm at with this, I'm just gonna miss the meeting, that's fine. Just don't miss 2 months' worth.
But my general comment then is, I like this because I think there's value in participating in a meeting. I've done it multiple times. I anticipate I will before we're done here. And I like having you attend rather than not attend. So I like, again, the default is if we do nothing, there's no digital attendance and you're out in 60. That's if we do nothing. So I think taking the positive motion to allow for attendance is good. On the other hand, I don't know that we need to be in our community, just like we don't need to be to every meeting, we don't have to always be in our community. But I see value in being here. You know, there's just, when I look back over the course of the 3.5 years, I don't know, I notice stuff as I drive around, people come talk to me and, you know, in the stores or whatever, like, that's why I joke, I wear dark sunglasses to the grocery store, but in all honesty, I think there is some value in it. So I think the two extremes of, you know, you have to be here for every meeting, I don't like that, and I don't like, you can't attend digitally. So I think this is a good balance. And I like how it allows the council to be human about it, right? So
Agreed.
there are all kinds of circumstances, like your circumstance is unique to you. They're different people. And again, we don't know who's going to be here next, right? But I think if they see the wisdom in this, they would probably keep it. And I think it allows in both cases, if you've missed the 30 or if the 60 days is going to knock you out by default, they could rescue it by by taking a positive step of making a motion. And I think that's good, you know. We might say, well, we don't want that responsibility, but I don't know, I think it allows us to recognize the humanness of all of us in our individual circumstances that none of us can predict. Even to tomorrow, we can't predict. So I like it the way that it is, and I think it accomplishes that balance between the two concepts of being in the community and allowing you to be away but participate.
Councillor Court.
I'm good, he covered it well enough.
Okay. Councillor Granger.
So, I think my situation would qualify under exceptional circumstances. I would like to think, the way this is now written, that this council or a future council, if I was to run again and get elected, that I could appeal to that part of this, so that's probably a plus. But it's not a foregone conclusion that I, you know, if got elected to a future council, that council would be sympathetic to my situation, and then, you know, I'd be out even though I got elected. I will say, I do not believe that being away, and I, for the record, I have not missed a single council meeting in 3.5 years, albeit a number of them by Zoom. I do not believe that being away has negatively impacted my ability to do this job. Okay, I'm not a real social butterfly out there, but if people want to get a hold of me, they can get a hold of me when I'm out of town in the winter. I hear what you're saying, and I respect, you know, the people that talk to the mayor, that their preference would be to have, you know, people, elected officials in the community at all times, but circumstances in life don't always allow that, and in my situation, it doesn't. So, moving forward, if this bylaw is passed, and I appreciate administration's ability to, you know, be as open-minded and flexible in the writing of it as you can be. But moving forward, this bylaw would essentially eliminate me would eliminate my ability to get reelected, to run for office, rather. Not get reelected, but run for office. There'd be no point in me doing that, because what would be the point? Because the way this is written, a future council would say, well, we have to approve your extenuating circumstances or not. And so why would I go through the exercise? So it's eliminating me from running, in my view. And sorry, I just don't think the chit chat on the sidewalk on Main Street at 40 below in the middle of February, you know, is a valid enough reason to take somebody like me off the table in terms of running for in an election. And so I guess if this passes, you lose me. And that's a shame, because I think I've contributed, you know, to the betterment of the community, as I set out to do when I ran. I think what I bring to the table has been beneficial to the citizens in a number of ways. I don't think there'd be too many people argue that. And yet I've been away for 3 winters in a row between, you know, 3 and 5 months. But yet I've contributed to the well-being of this community as an elected official. So I think I said it before, it's like killing a fly with an 8-pound sledge, and I don't know why we're hung up on this, but it eliminates people like me and my circumstances from running.
Mayor?
Councillor Granger, I appreciate your personal view of the application of this procedural bylaw. But as I said earlier on, you have work ethics that no one could ever talk negatively about. This is not meant to be for one person in particular. It's meant to have a broad application to anyone who wants to come and be part of a council. We cannot predict that those who will come to council and want to use the ability to have Zoom meeting and be away from the community would be as strong in ethics as you are. You are a very particular case, and you have done the best you could with being on council and on Zoom. No one will ever argue that. No one will.
Yep, Councillor Granger, and then we'll move on here.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. I guess if we had a history of, you know, lousy councillors that would take advantage of something like that and not do a good job, I might agree, but we don't have a history like that. Am I not the only person that's found themselves, other than the one in, you know,
Well, we don't need to name names.
no, we won't name names, but I know of one other case who didn't have, you know, the case, you know, the situation, the legitimate situation to be a way that I have. The two are apples and oranges. So we've had 2 cases in recent memory, and is there a serious problem? I don't know that I see it.
I'm just gonna finish. Well,
Yeah,
not finish,
anyway,
but
I'm done.
I was just gonna add, I'm not worried about you, Councillor Granger, I'm worried about the next person. You've shown that I'm not worried about you.
It's not you.
It's not you. It's
Keep saying that.
the
Yeah,
person that,
But it's affecting my
I get
ability to rerun.
100%, it is.
And I got members of the public coming to me saying, you've done a great job.
But we have members of the public that are frustrated that you aren't here.
Well,
Works both ways.
Yeah.
It sucks, 100%. I'm not worried about you, I'm worried about the next person.
yeah.
Anyone else on this, or we good? Yep.
Is there reasonable consensus to draft that into the bylaw then and formalize that? Because this was just, again, in the backgrounder, so I'll formalize that. You can have some further debate about it at the next meeting.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, thank you.
Okay, our second delegation is here, Crystal. She has a conversation for us, a request, and I'll go ahead and let you discuss and We'll go from there.
They have everything you've emailed me to.
Okay.
So they've got all that content.
All right, sorry, I didn't have the whole slideshow together by the time I sent it in, but I, so I have a little bit more, but,
Do you know how to tell your computer to go there?
computer, go there.
You don't like Macs?
I don't know how to do anything.
I only can do Macs, so,
You're in that generation, are you?
It's point of contention between my life.
Are schools Macs?
Yeah, they
100%.
always have been
is there
from
like
day
a
one.
weird?
Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember those.
The
Yeah.
square,
Yeah, that's
you're
right.
the cube,
love that.
remember that? The
I was in
cube?
elementary when
There's
those
like an
came out.
input or something,
Yeah.
like when I do this in Sunday school, it's like,
Colored ones.
there's something that
When
they
it took
press and then
30
it shows
minutes
up.
to boot
Tell you
them
what,
up.
the first ones came out when I was,
We don't need
Is
to
there a
go
different
there.
input, Jeff? Is there like, you know, like when I do this at church,
You
they're
had a
like,
mouse, you had
there's
to
like
do
an
your own
input thing and then they
programming.
press it and then it shows up on that?
Yeah, but it should just take.
I just come out big like that, no, I can't. I had it
Can you
small.
shrink it down here
Well,
using your pad? Can you shrink it?
You know, Crystal, because we have the picture and we have everything, if it doesn't work, we have the material.
I had, it gave me a thing up top.
Choose mirror.
I looked at it already.
Oh, well, there you
Oh,
go.
thank
see.
you. I was gonna say, but the the slideshow's very cute, so. Okay. Thank you. My husband couldn't be here. His name's JD Haitsma. I'm Crystal Haitsma. We're fairly new to the community, but we have lived here and around here a couple of times. Okay, so what we're looking for is an exemption to the land use bylaw that only allows secondary suites to be connected to a primary dwelling. It's in Schedule 5 and it's 9.1. So why we're looking to this is specifically our family situation. My my parents live half of the year in BC and half of the year in Alberta. My dad just got diagnosed with cancer. My mom's sisters live in town and they would like to spend half of the year here with us, potentially so that in the future when he's gone that we'd be able to care for her as well. This is our home situation. You can kind of see we live on the corner. We live on 496 4th Ave West. There's no room on the side by the carport to extend that out for a garage. There's no room on the back because the Four Seasons room extends too much. And the windows on that side are primary bedroom windows that we couldn't remove on that side either. So there's not really a space to do it over there. This is our backyard. We have developed part of the backyard and plan on developing a garage in where you kind of see the rocky patch there. Over here down at the bottom, we bought a house where they had used this all as a parking pad. So there already is like a gate fence thing that you open and the cars already go in and out from there pretty regularly. So that is kind of what the home looks like, and that's why we had kind of delineated that area to be a garage. So here's a couple of other reasons besides just our family situation. Beaver Homes and Cottages build secondary suites, and I chatted with them through the local home hardware. And it might be a little bit hard to see, but down here, they kind of have a presentation that you can bring to town council to try and help. And they have a little section at the bottom that says for cities and municipalities, these are the reason why it's helpful. It says optimized infrastructure, ADUs, which is just an additional dwelling unit, so another area, can make efficient use of existing infrastructure, reducing the need for new development in less desirable areas. It reduces urban sprawl by increasing density in established areas. It helps to curb urban sprawl and protect natural and agricultural land. It increases tax revenue. It helps address housing shortages and provide more affordable housing options for other people. Also, going along the lines of increasing tax revenue for municipalities, it also increases any increase to your house value, then also increases values around it. So other homes that are going to be valued around it will also be valued higher, so it's going to increase that as well. This is according to the Beaver Homes and Cottages, but down at the bottom there, like the designs that you can get from them already are built to code, zoning regulations, energy standards, specifically across Alberta, so that they make sure that it is all to code. You can see there kind of on the this side here, it would be a garage with the second suite above. It would look something like that. I couldn't find a good comparable picture, but you've probably seen or heard of people who had to connect their garage to their house just so it could be a secondary suite, and they made a really weird looking roof line that just like is awful. So I couldn't find a good picture of that, but I think it's much more desirable for the whole entire community to have something that actually looks aesthetically pleasing than to try and extend a roof line in a really weird way just to like make it to code. Because they were like, oh, build a causeway and across the middle of your driveway or whatever, and like that just would not, it's just not going to look desirable in the area. I also looked up a few government things, and according to the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan and the Municipal Governing Act, which talked about the Alberta Municipal Planning Hub, it seems like they want communities to create area redevelopment plans, or ARPs, which encourage and facilitate infill and increase density in established existing neighborhoods rather than continuing to expand the boundaries of the municipalities into rural areas. They found that it's less of a burden on natural resources when you increase density instead of trying to increase sprawl. The Alberta Chamber of Commerce, I found there, said Alberta is experiencing a housing crisis with 164,000 households in core housing needs. And there's an affordable housing shortage. That spotlight was from Alberta government down at the bottom that I shared. A significant shortage of affordable housing, especially for lower income households. And you've probably also heard in town, I hear this all of the time around in town. In fact, just as I was at Home Hardware 10 minutes ago, somebody was complaining about how their kids just had to move into their unfinished basement because they can't find a rental. I know literally like more than 6 families currently looking to move to Cardston that can't move here because they can't afford a house and there's not enough small houses, there's not enough suites, there's not enough rentals, they can't get approved for a mortgage or whatever, and they need a rental. I think that that's been happening for a long time. When we lived here several years ago, it was so difficult for us to find a rental, and we ended up living in a really awkward rental situation just because it was the only thing that we could get, and my husband was doing an internship here, and we had to live in Cardston. So I have firsthand experience with that. So I think that even if we don't plan on that, we plan on our family living in there, but I think even in the future when it was somebody else's home, that it actually would add to these problems. So there wouldn't be the natural resource cost, and it would be more affordable housing for people. The only problem that I could see when I was looking into this was that, and the main reason was given, was that there could be future complications with subdivision requests, like water, sewer, and electrical being connected to the main house. And if we don't live here forever, which who knows, maybe we'll sell our house one day, we don't plan to, but if that happened, then somebody could request it and it would be a weird subdivision issue. So according to ChatGPT, it says that you first have to go to the development officer in Cardston, then you have to go to ORSC and get approval, and then you have to go to the MPC. So I feel like at any of those 3 stages, could we not just give them a no and say no on that end, when if that really is the main concern is subdivision requests, that we could just say no later on if that still is the problem, if that's still what they do there. Okay, I think that's everything. I think that it said something about people could ask me questions at the end.
Yep,
So-
we'll open it up here. Are you all done?
Yes, that's it.
All right.
That's all the things.
Councillor Court, Councillor Burton.
There's 2 comments. As those boomers get older, I can see where you're coming from. Families living there. My guess concern would be the neighbors and right next door there.
I've talked to the neighbors. Yeah, one of the neighbors actually helped me develop this presentation. He used to be a town councilman. Also, there's every neighbor in our area doesn't have a suite.
Okay.
We're not surrounded by apartment complexes, duplexes, or suites, and our neighbors are very accepting of the idea.
I guess the other one would be the size of this unit.
Yeah, according to the bylaw, I think we can only have it be 834 square feet because we already have a shed that takes
Get
up.
into the bylaw with that.
Yes, it would fit into the bylaw. Mhm, yeah.
Councillor Burton.
So if I were grading your presentation, I'd give you an A+.
I was thinking that. I was like, you know what, for social 30, I'd probably get an A+ on this presentation that I made.
No, I would give you very good marks.
Yeah, thank you.
ChatGPT got it wrong.
It did?
It did, but that's a
Okay.
detail, but.
That was the
your-
only part
Your part of the
ChatGPT helped me
presentation
with,
was
but-
very good. That's my only comment for you.
Yeah,
Okay. Councillor Jensen.
it's only an A,
Yeah,
not
I'm
an A+.
dropping you to an A because
So this has full utilities, power, water, sewer, everything in it, right?
It would, yes, so we would connect that to our main
I
dwelling.
I have a niece that has something like that in her backyard, but in Oregon.
Yeah,
And We went last year and saw it, and I thought, wow, that is such a great idea. And my sister
so, too.
has dreams of living in that place when her husband passes away, but her daughter Lisa
My
says, "No
in-laws were
way."
also like, well, can we move in? And I was like, well, you guys can split it or something. My parents aren't always here, but I think it's an awesome idea. We'd be able to build brand new for a much less cost. We're already going to build a garage there anyways, like that's already going to happen. So to build a secondary suite on top is much less cost for us.
Councillor Granger.
Yeah, good job on the explanation. I appreciate that. A question for our administration. So if we were to agree with this request, and I think it would be difficult to say no, saying yes yet, but it would be difficult to say no, because I believe the bylaw is written not for your situation. It's written
Right.
to prevent other things, and so I'm sensitive to that. But if we were to agree with this exception, what's the process? Is it a bylaw amendment, or is it a letter from administration? How is it?
If I may,
Yeah.
you can't agree to this exception. That's not one of our options, so it's a prohibited use. So we have three categories. We have permitted, which means they just have to go through the process with our development officer, so that part of it was right.
Okay.
And then secondly, we have the choice of either changing the bylaw. In other words, we can't grant an exemption because it's prohibited, because you've got permitted, discretionary, which it isn't. That's when it would come to the MPC.
Right.
So that part was right.
Yeah.
Subdivision was where it got it wrong, but anyway. And then the third option is that it says prohibited, which is that's what this is. So we don't have the option to grant her what she's asking directly.
So it's not discretionary.
Right. So the only two ways we can do it is we could go through the formal process of changing the bylaw. So R1, and I called our development officer before the meeting, R1 prohibits a secondary dwelling, in other words, a detached dwelling on the same lot for the reasons that you talked about. Well, there are more reasons, but for those two. So we either have to say we're changing the bylaw for all of R1, and then anybody, we'd move it to discretionary, then anybody could come forward and say, hey, I want a detached whatever with a dwelling in it. Could be
If
a
we
garage.
did that, and sorry, if we did that and changed the bylaw and moved that into discretionary, unless there were extenuating special circumstances, we could say no at that point.
You can't. Well, we can't, but the MPC would, right? So,
Yeah,
so the MPC could then say yes or no based on the parameters built into the direction we would give them and their discretion and the unique facts. So the other option is you can make a bylaw as small as one property. That's usually not a good idea, but you that's the other option.
Yeah.
Right, but I'm just saying legally you could, right?
There's some logistic,
You can have bylaws for as big or as small as you want.
yeah.
So for example, in the county, they'll have bylaws unique to a hamlet or those types of things.
So it's an
We have a bylaw
interesting-
unique to, that we're just talking about, unique to the development along the river, right? So
Can I mention, I didn't know, I thought you could just ask for an exemption. But my preference would be to amend the bylaw because I do think everything that I just said is true. Like, I think that it is very difficult for housing, and I'm sure that some of them can come up and be really strange and whatever. But I think, like you said, if it's discretionary, then it would still be case-by-case basis, so you could still say, like, no, that really doesn't fit and it's not going to help. I mean, anyways, that's just my opinion, but.
So if I can, it's an interesting animal. There's a couple of ways to look at it, a couple of ways to go. So we've heard your request, and I guess it would be up to us to try and come up with an optimum answer.
I still do have to go to MPC after I get this approval and use it, and because there is still discretionary use to even have a secondary suite based on our density. But according to like my own little like chatting with the neighbors around me, it doesn't seem like that will be a problem because there isn't any suites or multifamily housing. But I plan on that being the next step if I'm able to get approval here.
Does anyone have any more questions on this?
Just have a question for Councillor Burton. Councillor Burton, you are on the MPC. So imagine that this council was favorable. The bylaw has to be changed. I mean, you have a meeting coming up. So we have a time factor that's very, very limited.
Yeah, to squeeze it into our next public hearing, we would have to decide that today, so we'd have to change our meeting, have a vote, like that's how extreme we'd have to do it. We could have this at any point. At any point, we could say, hey, we want to change a bylaw because it's a land use bylaw, it requires a public hearing.
Okay.
For me personally, I wouldn't want to squeeze it, like, there's not enough thought,
Appreciate that.
because we'd want to include what guidance would you give the MPC. So, yes, we want affordable housing. No, we don't want too much parking on one unit. No, we don't want something that, extends way above and blocks their, you know what I mean? Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff to think about besides we need more low-cost housing. That's one of them, and it's very valid, but it's one of a group. It's not a standalone. So we'd want to think it through enough that we could give guidance so that the MPC would know, okay, here are the things that are important to council when we're considering this, right? So that they're not just winging it every time one comes up.
Councillor Brown.
I just was curious about time frame. Thank you.
Well, an MPC meets monthly, right? So if council, because I didn't think we could make that decision at
No, we'd have to
CCW?
we'd have to call a special
I
meeting
know.
today to do that.
Right,
Which we can't do.
but we're in CCW, so,
If we all voted unanimously. I'm not for it at all
Yeah,
to do that.
yeah.
I'm just saying we could.
yeah, it's just that it's not like you guys only meet once every 6 months. Like, you
No, that's
literally
right.
meet every month is my
Yes,
point. So
yes.
if she misses our meeting this week, well, she's still in 3 weeks gets the next one, so, yeah.
Second
okay.
Thursday.
Yeah, okay.
Anything else on this? Okay, we'll have a discussion coming up and administration will be in contact with you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very
Do I
much.
stay for anything, or is like? I'll stay for a minute. I've never been to a town council meeting, so I will.
We don't
Thank
need
you.
our houses, the yards are too big. They got family that can build a secondary dwelling on them.
Yeah, but if it's so big, you
Mm-hmm.
could subdivide it.
It's an interesting animal with 6 legs.
They were just wanting to get out. They wanted,
That's a
because they
problem.
wanted,
Okay, guys, we will move along here
this could solve.
to 5B, and we're going to turn it over to Josh for 5B and C, but we'll talk about the abatement policy.
Mr. Chairman, just
Written the way it is.
before we move on,
Counselor.
if there is appetite to change it, we should let administration know, or to discuss it even. We should let administration know so that they can stick it on an agenda at our other meetings.
Want to be put on our next meeting agenda?
No.
Well, I'm
Naturally?
just saying, we could give them an indication of, do we want it on an agenda?
Oh, I see.
I guess, do you want to do a straw poll on that then? Or
I
what?
would say yes, it should be on the next agenda so we can have a full conversation about it,
Agree.
Yeah, I would agree.
right? Whether it's yay or nay,
Absolutely.
it still needs to be a full conversation.
Yeah, we'll let administration know that then. Okay, Josh, go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Good evening, Council. So, talking tonight about a proposal that was made to you in February to change the structure of your tax abatement program. So, we looked at this a couple of different ways. The assumption of tax abatement programs is that municipalities are going to generate more revenue with one than without one. Didn't want to tackle that, so we're just going to assume that it's true. We have a program, great. So let's then try to figure out how you might maximize that program, the benefits of such a program, and how then that might fit with this proposal, whether this proposal does that or not. So I suggest to consider a tax abatement as an investment. So the cost of the investment is the taxes the town is abating over the program period. The benefit is all the new taxes that are collected over the useful life of the property, and then you can just separate that into a gain or a loss. So time matters. how long the improvements are going to last. The value of the improvement matters, and then how those things are arranged. Really, to summarize, the proposal suggests doubling the abatement. So rather than a sliding scale over 5 years, it's a sliding scale over 10 years. And the idea is that increasing your abatement would generate more economic activity, would attract more businesses. But the proposal didn't include any evidence to substantiate that claim. So just based on the numbers there, the pure numbers do not indicate that that's going to be a benefit to the town, doubling the investment as such. In most situations, you're going to end up capturing your cost. And so apart from any investment that would indicate greater economic growth, we wouldn't recommend this proposal.
Councillor Burton.
So one of the things that so you've done a very good job of working these numbers, first of all, so you get an A. For an A plus, what I would have suggested is
Lawyer, not a teacher.
there's some.
I tell you, you're on a roll today, Councillor.
No, but you've done a very good job of this. But there's some things I think maybe we haven't weighed heavily enough in this scale. So one of them is, if I'm a business looking where to go, especially those first 2 years, you know, my cash flow, I don't know what it's going to be and all the rest of it, they're really important to me. If I could get a break on taxes in those first top it, you know, heavily loaded in those front years, that would mean a lot to me to come. So I don't agree with 10 years because I think most businesses either made it or not by 5 years.
5 years is the
But
time.
the first 2 years, like, you know, I'm not opposed to increasing it in those first 2 years from what we currently have, but I'm not in favor of 10 years. But, so that's the first point. The second one is, if I bring a business here, maybe I bring 2 or 3 families here, and they're building new homes or they're buying homes because somebody else is building a new one. I look at our housing starts as 6. It's been a long time since we've had 6 housing starts. Like we were at 0 2 years in a row, and then it was 1, and then it was 2, and then it was 3. Now we're at 6. So if a new business comes in and they bring 6 new families to town, we've just doubled our growth. And one of the reasons we were able to keep our tax at 2% was because there was some new assessment, not increased assessment, new assessment. So, you know, it's more kids in a classroom. It's maybe a job for some of our youth who have to move away because they can't find jobs here. So I think there's some soft reasons why just the numbers by themselves don't weigh heavily enough.
Anyone? Councillor Brown?
Took my comments.
Yeah, I totally agree with
First next time.
what Councillor Burton said. That was literally what I was going to bring up. Because for me, it's not just the business that's getting the deal. We're bringing houses. We're bringing, and we already know, Crystal talked about it, we have a shortage. So, but we need people. The more people that come to Cardston and buy, the cheaper our taxes will be for the rest of us. And I think being the councillor that has had a big part of economic growth and development, I'm all about it. We need to be better looking so that businesses are looking at us. And if they come and they look at us and think, oh, it's not going to be as painful with taxes over the first 2 years, that makes Cardston pretty dang good looking. So I'm all about that.
Mayor,
And I like the 5 years.
Mayor and then Councillor Granger.
Exactly.
I like to ask a question. Councillor Burton, you were saying something that kind of makes sense. Yeah, it's true. Businesses, if they don't make it within 5 years, they're probably not going to make it. So your idea of front-loading the exemption the first year and the second year, right now we have 100% first year, 80% second year. You would be most likely in favor of 100%, 100%.
Yeah, I could live with that for 2 years.
And then 80, 60, 40, whatever.
Yeah, whatever after that. But those first 2 years are so critical to a business that every
Yeah,
penny is going to count,
I
right?
hear you. I totally hear you.
Councillor Granger. Sorry, Josh, did you want to?
Oh,
Whoever
no,
wants to go
Counselor first, and I can.
Okay.
So if the proposal of, we've got, well, our current bylaw, and the proponent is asking for 10, and the numbers don't really work just based on the numbers. Notwithstanding, I understand what you're saying. So is there an answer somewhere in the middle? I mean, would it 7 years work and you front end, the abatement? Like I agree, probably the 10, what he's asking for is too difficult to handle. But I think we should try to do something more than our current bylaw. The answer's somewhere in the middle. Can we not work on another middle option? Because my question was gonna be, we don't wanna turn anybody away or scare somebody away because we were looked upon as being not cooperative. So the answer somewhere in the middle might work for the proponent as well as for us. I wouldn't wanna to sort of have a bit of an idea what this proposal is. I wouldn't wanna see that walk away, is what I'm saying.
Josh can go ahead there.
Sure. So the economic growth that is desired by council is certainly understandable. Unfortunately, we're in a period where that is being demonstrated in the community. And that's being demonstrated with the 5-year program that you currently have, with the abatement that you already have. And only one organization has taken advantage of that program. And so the development is just happening apart from it. The question in front of you is whether doubling the investment that the town is making, that on a per property basis would ultimately cost the town rather than produce a gain, is worthwhile. I also brought up these numbers and the idea of looking at it in terms of a gain and a loss so that you can decide from the council's perspective what is the desired outcome here. And you can use it to say, we're comfortable with a gain of 60% on the investment, or 70 or 80. Really, in a period of growth like you're seeing, well, and just to say this, if a town is experiencing really, really strong growth, the primary assumption of these programs is in doubt. It's saying, we're just going to allow people not to pay taxes. They're already building. They're building and building and building. They're coming here. And you're seeing that right now with your 5-year program. So yes, it can be tailored differently, but how would you like to make that decision, I guess is the question. We propose a gain and loss. We can do it another way.
Councillor Brown, Councillor Burton.
You actually answered my question.
Councillor Burton.
So just to clarify, by me saying that there are 6 housing starts compared to 0, I'm not suggesting we're in a boom. So,
Yeah.
so I think we're so far from that every bit helps. But I'm personally, I don't think we need to go past the 5 years, because the business isn't going to live or die by whether year 6 they get a tax break, or year 10.
Agreed.
So in my mind, I say, well, what would I be willing to do in 5 years? I'd be willing to go, he's suggesting 100% in the first 2 years, right? I'd be willing to give him that
In a 5-year program.
in a 5-year program, yeah.
That's
You can-
my in the middle.
Right, but I don't want to go in the middle to 7 years.
You know,
Yeah.
No,
I just
no,
threw that
5
out,
years
but-
is plenty.
Yeah.
So I'd be prepared to say, yeah, we are playing ball, we do want you here. We'd love to have you do what you're proposing. So, maybe it's 100, 180, 60, 40,
okay, yeah.
and then to 0. Like either you've lived or died by at that point.
Yeah,
I guess I'm agreeing
I think we
with you
show good
again.
faith, and I wonder if we only have one business using that, we must not be advertising it very well, right? That's part of our problem, perhaps.
Go ahead.
So that's exactly what I was going to say. When I went and spoke at the Chamber of Commerce, and Jeff had given me a whole bunch of,
pamphlets,
pardon?
pamphlets.
Yeah, well, not pamphlets, but information that would, that was for the businesses. And the amount of businesses, new business owners that came up to me is because then I talked about it to the chamber and all of the businesses that were there. And they were like, when did that happen? When did council, like, they didn't even know this stuff existed. And I was like, no, like, we have money set aside. Come and talk to us for this and that. And they were blown away. So as soon as he said that, that was my first thought. I thought, well, clearly we're not doing a good enough job, and that's on us. Not administration, but that's on us. We should be making sure that the businesses are knowing the perks to coming to Cardston. And the other thing is, it's not like we don't have openings on Main Street that we need businesses into. So really, I mean, I hear what we're saying as far as like, whoa, we need to be careful here, but I would rather get nothing for 2 years than have a Main Street business open and trying to help our locals than it sit empty. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it.
I was just gonna add, do other municipalities do this? I'm sure they do.
Yes,
I
they
just, are we comparable to most of them?
Our current 5-year, I'd say, would be as
Consistent.
probably the most common one you see.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead, Jeff.
I just wanted to mention that when we're talking about the abatement program, I do want to be clear that just because you open a new business in Cardston doesn't mean you even qualify for it.
Right.
You have to build assessment.
Yeah.
So to go open your business in an existing building downtown doesn't qualify you for this.
Yeah, you
That's
have
not
to
what
do-
it's doing, right? It's an assessment-based idea, so
to
any
incentivize.
businesses that qualify are on the program. Now, hopefully we see massive buildings, we've been talking about that a little bit here on this one, and I would love for them to be involved, but just to be, I don't know if the word's fair, but just to be clear, businesses that have invested in the capital and qualify are on the abatement program.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's not just me opening up a shop downtown and
No.
keeping the building the
No.
same.
You have to show, according to this policy that we had,
Yeah.
you have to show 25% to 99.9% improvement.
Okay, we'll go Councilor Burton and then we'll move on here.
So going back to Councillor Brown's point about the empty space on Main Street, we have lots of that. We have a disincentive to leave it empty, which we just passed. Do we have an incentive to fill it? You know, unless they do a massive renovation that whatever the percentage is increases it by 50% or whatever that capital investment is our threshold. You know, should we put our minds to something to incentivize the guy who doesn't want to build a new building, the urban sprawl she talked about, not that we're suffering from urban sprawl, but, you know, take one of those empty buildings and put $50,000 into it. It helps the neighbors, it helps Main Street, it helps the business owner. Like, should we put our minds to something to incentivize? We have a decentivization, but I always think if it's worth having a disincentive, we should have an incentive as well. The carrot and the stick.
Councilor Granger.
So what are we gonna say to this proponent? I mean, is it clear what we're saying? We're not crazy about his request for the 10-year. I kinda like what Councillor Burton was saying, stick with 5, but, you know, bump up the front end of the abatement. But is it clear, Jeff, as to know what to do, what to say to the proponent?
Oh, I would say Josh is talking to us here.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that we wouldn't say anything to the proponent at this time. It would simply, the interest is in amending the bylaw. Based on your feedback, we'll do that and provide you some options, and we'll reach out from there.
Can we also look into what Councillor Burton?
Of course.
Because I love that.
They get a chocolate bar.
Yep.
That's it. That's totally smarty.
No, I think it's a good
actually.
idea, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Thank
Don't know
you.
what that looks like, but I
Let's
don't know.
see.
What,
I
what
know
is,
It's got a lot of challenges.
I was gonna say, like,
There should be market motivation to have
Yeah.
a building occupied. You should want the revenue.
I agree.
And if you're not,
it's okay, Mayor, Councilor Jensen, and then we're moving on.
I know that years back, we kind of look at that very issue of those empty stores on Main Street. And it always came back to the same thing. you start to give too much tax break, and the others say, well, I worked all those years to build the business, to build it for the community. Where is my break? I am the one who supported that community. And so you have to kind of do
Balancing.
the balance and have a buy-in by the community that is the business community there. Because if you don't have a buy-in from them, then you create a situation where one business owner hates the other one, and it's festering the climate in the community, and we surely don't want that.
Councillor Jensen?
Yeah, we had a gentleman that came to us with an abatement proposal. And I would like to, I know that maybe it's not even possible, but I'd like to know if he feels that our proposal was fair and good. Because I would sure hate to lose his business. Because I think we all know that he has
Working on it.
plans for future, and I would not want to lose his business at all.
I agree.
Anyways.
Josh, anything else on that one?
No, thank you.
Okay, go on to 5, oh my goodness, 5C. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, that is right, okay.
Sunday recreational use. So, spoke about this in December and then most recently at the CCW meeting of March 4th. So, at that discussion, administration let council know about the dynamic that is causing some pressure on town employees to agree to work on Sunday. And council as a whole all expressed regret at this and wanting to make a change. So there was no resolution at that meeting. It was CCW. We just wanted to gauge the feeling now as it's been a few months later. There was a discussion about putting it out to the public as a plebiscite. There are some risks with that that we wanted to discuss. So the first, well, primarily would be that some would then take that as their platform to run for council and would be perhaps uninterested and unprepared to deal with everything else that the town needs them to deal with. That can shift the vote around if you have people in that maybe aren't the best fit. That's just something, that's just a risk. The other is there's no guarantee that a new council would do anything with the plebiscite, even if it was done. And the election being in late October, it's likely the town employees would be in the same position for the upcoming season. So administration wanted to see if council, with the knowledge of the situation and familiarity with the employees, wanted to take a step to alleviate some pressure at this time. There are two options, although there certainly are others, I'm sure. One would be to relinquish control of the issue. So just to rescind the council policy, which would essentially revert it back to an HR matter that is handled by administration, as are really all other staffing matters. And the other would be to just say, no, we want to make sure we're in line with public opinion. And so to really rescind all of the movement towards or away from the original plebiscite and just say we're going back to what we heard from the public originally. So we'd recommend relinquishing control, and we can discuss more about that as we go.
So I'll just speak first on this. As you all know, I'm definitely in favor of Sunday sports. I always have been. I think if we have the facilities and the staff that are willing, of course, that's key for me, that they're willing to do it. That we have the facilities that are in town to be used by and paid for by associations in town. That's just always been my opinion, that Sunday sports should be available to those that want to pay to use it, and that we have staff that are willing. After reading this as well, I am of the opinion that I would love administration just to take this over personally, and not have any, unless there's extenuating circumstances, maybe it does need to come to council at some point for something. But I am all in favor of letting administration take care of this going forward. And I agree that a plebiscite might not be the best at this point. That's just my opinion on that. Anyone else? Oh, sorry, Mayor,
No,
Councillor
it's
Court.
okay. You can go ahead.
I remember
Councillor.
back in these days when, particularly on the Sunday one, the only change the council was gonna make was gonna say at the discretion of council. The torches came out and it was insane what was going on around the street. And people are just going crazy over it. And all we said was, we'll make it at discretion of council. So I'm not necessarily in favor of plebiscites because they can get pretty misinformed about things and get pretty hot. So,
Mayor
Just in pitchforks.
Okay.
and Councillor
I
Granger.
mean, if I gauge the changes in the community's perception of a question like alcohol, I can just about imagine that there is a change in perception about sports on Sunday, checking this down. And I really also don't believe that the plebiscite, in hindsight, is the best tool. It's difficult to gauge if the public would be supporting that, but over the years, we have allowed many things to be open on Sunday. It has to come to council, and almost everything is allowed on Sunday except for the swimming pool. So I'm not sure that to carry on bringing that to council is the most effective way to deal with that matter.
Councillor Granger.
So quick question and then a comment. So the opposition to Sunday sports, is that like a holdover from the old Lord Days Act discussions way back? Is that where?
I'm guessing something to that effect. It just seemed like when that was going around, it was everybody in the county and everybody else were just losing it over a simple change where we would say council would be the discretion of council, and it just turned into an absolute gong show, so.
I think we're probably beyond that now, and the 2014 plebiscite isn't relevant. I agree with the sentiment that this is not really something that's plebiscitable, if I can say it that way. I would agree that with the recommendation to relinquish control of this from this room to administration. There's a lot of merit in that.
Councillor Burton.
So just one clarification, the Agrodome in their lease actually adopted the current policy, which is that they don't staff on Sunday. So you can go use it, but they're not providing tilling the earth or any of that.
That's kind of how we are.
It's just same as like a park here where you can go use it, but we're not staffing it.
It could be a cost thing.
No, it says in conformance with the town's policy. So they were trying to conform to what we had. So I guess I'd be the guy that stands alone, and I'm not prepared to have people working on Sunday. I don't care if somebody's open, and I don't like the pressure. And I would just ask you, Chairman, with your proposal, how do you get around, because you said if somebody wants to, and I originally thought that was a good way to do it, but then we're hearing that they're getting pressure. So how could we have it? If it's just administrative, do you just tell them you're working that day, or like how do you get around
I guess it's
the
my
issue that now they feel like they're the guy that's either making or breaking whether those kids can play hockey that day? That's the problem we're trying to fix right now. And how does turning it to you two fix that?
You two knuckleheads.
To administration.
Yeah. Well, just I think the main thing was it was an event that really was already planned and it was in the moment. And I think to have a discussion in advance of the season and to say, these are the parameters, do you want to voluntarily sign up for this? Just within the office and among staff, that's just a much lower pressure ask.
It's not a week before saying
Yeah.
I need a yes or no from you.
It's a schedule way ahead of the
If
idea.
no one wants to, then it's,
And if no one wants to, that's one way to do it voluntary. Another way would be to require it, sure. And could be.
Sorry, Councillor Court, Councillor Brown, then I'll
Not
speak
that
as
it
well.
matters, but Raymond McGrath, I believe, assigned person for that 2 or 4 hours on a Sunday, if I'm correct on that.
Their pools are also open
Jeff
Sunday
has
as well.
reached out to them. I'm not as familiar.
I believe that's what happens there.
Councillor
Not that we
Brown.
have to do that, I'm just,
They just told me last year they didn't open their rink on Saturday.
That's
It was
right.
so low.
Yeah.
So that was it.
all right, I'll find out right now.
So that was actually my question in regards to the pool. I just wondered, so how does that work with the pool? So then are we staffing it on Sunday? Like, that's what we're doing by agreeing to this?
Wasn't planning on doing that.
Okay, that's my question, right? Like, for me, like, I'm just trying to wrap my head around this. By the way, I am against a plebiscite. I don't want to go down that road again because that was just pure joy for alcohol. So I have no interest
Almost
in
drove you to
this.
drinking, right?
Let's not put that in the paper. Thank you. Anyway, so I just wondered in regards to, so this still would be keeping our employees. So Joshua, you're not having to work on Sunday now. We're not forcing our existing employees to work on a Sunday. We're giving them the option, hey, somebody wants the rink or the field and we need a guy, or woman, can you do it? Like, is that, I'm just trying to wrap my head around this.
Yeah,
Need lifeguards.
well,
Well,
This
but
is-
that's my point of the pool. Like, not just any Tom, Dick, or Harry can do it. So for me, I'm
don't
not
think we're talking about the
interested
pool.
in having the pool open on a Sunday. I don't think that's not gonna make us money because the pool is a high cost.
so what you just, the example you just gave is really how administration is gonna make the decision. So cost is gonna be a factor.
Okay.
What are we seeing as far as community desires? What are we seeing as far as staffing desires? And what all of those indicators are telling us is gonna form the decision that administration would make. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I mean, I'm not administration, but I kind of foresee it as like, they're gonna have a little meeting with all their rec people, everyone, and say, hey, this is coming up in 3 or 4 months. Is anyone willing to work a Sunday? No pressure now, right? We're 4 months, 5 months away. Is anyone willing to work a Sunday instead of their Monday this weekend, or something like that? Like, I don't see any pressure coming in. And if no one's willing, then it's, hey, minor hockey, you need to book on Saturdays because that's all we can staff.
Okay.
That's how I see it going down personally, but I don't. Councilor Brown.
So that would be the key then, would be to reach out. So let's say we go ahead with this, but then that would be the key, would be reaching out to the hockey. Hockey's our big one, right? There's no more calling us at the last minute and saying we have a tournament and we need it open on a Sunday. Like, that can't happen anymore. That, 24 hours notice, 1 week's notice, it would have to be pre-booked, right? We would have to make sure that those players or the managers of those sports are aware if we change it.
The only problem with that is playoffs. They don't know when their playoffs are gonna be. That would be the only problem.
But you still,
You know roughly when they're gonna be.
Yeah, who's gonna be where?
Councilor Brown.
could say, we roughly know when they are. So
You can book it and unbook it if you don't
Agreed,
have it.
agreed.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Josh.
So, I guess I would want to make it clear that while we certainly are taking all of council's feedback, if council relinquishes this policy, administration is just going to make the staffing decision like all others. It's just something that's now kind of behind this
But
divide.
we don't
I
need to worry
can't
about it.
guarantee anything, and
Council won't have to-
the employees are represented by an association that we would have to negotiate with.
Councilor Burton.
So I think if you extend that out, we'd end up that at some point, you're compelling people to work on
Yeah,
Sunday.
it's exactly.
Like, that's certainly
Exactly
in
right.
the range of possibilities.
Yeah.
So again, I'm against that. In the main Supreme Court of Canada case that looked at that Sunday Act, the Lord's Day Act, it's called London Drugs. In that case, because London Drugs wanted to stay open the whole bit, so was the name of the case. The court recognized the value to a community for a day of rest, a common day of rest. So I said, we're not looking at this from a religious point of view, we're looking at this from a societal point of view. And some of us could argue those are the same thing, but they said they're separate. And so they said, no, we recognize value in a community having a common day of rest. And why the common day of rest? So that our kids can have a day with their family, so that the kids can go to church or whatever they want to do on that common day of rest. So I'm all for a common day of rest. That's one of the reasons why I live here instead of somewhere else. So that would be my thought is I don't want to turn it over to you because I think that's where it would end up, and I'm against compelling someone to work on Sunday. I don't care if somebody goes and uses our soccer field or our ball diamond, if that's how their family wants to do it, I'm all for that. I just don't want to make anyone have to work, whether it's by social pressure that inevitably leads them to that, or their boss telling them, hey, this Sunday's your day.
I just want to, Councillor Jensen was going to speak, but then Councillor Granger, but I just want to say, what's the difference between that and our golf course right now? We're compelling them to work. I don't know.
I wouldn't change my answer. I'm just saying.
Yes.
I don't, again.
I don't know that there is a difference.
I don't think our administration wants to, I think Sunday's always the last option. I don't think, I mean, maybe, I don't think that we're gonna be, let's not play Saturday, let's play Sundays, and you guys are working, like, I don't see them wanting to do that, but maybe in 30 years, that's what it is, like, I don't know. But, Councillor Jensen, Councillor Granger.
I sit here and I find that my little cherished little world crumbles with my values and whatnot. You know, here we're allowing alcohol into my beautiful little community, which I will, you know, which is okay, but not okay. But I'm not going in that. I'm not going down that line.
Voted for it.
Okay, so, but I'm just, all I'm saying is that my world is changing. Okay, better or worse, I don't know. So with hockey, you know, and should we keep the rink open or should we not keep the rink open? And I'm sitting there going, you know, with my old school values, I think no. But the world is changing, and I can't hold back other people who have different values than me. And so I feel it's almost wrong for me to say, no, you can't play hockey or ice skate on Sunday because of my values. My values aren't someone else's values. If you want to go skating, go ahead. When my sons were playing hockey, we chose as a family to not play on Sunday. And we didn't. And I think that you can, and we kept the Sabbath day holy. We did things as a family. And that was our day of rest with our family. And I think that every family can make that choice. But I don't think I have the right to make that choice for everyone else. As far as going with an employee, I worry that an employee will say, yes, I will work on this Sunday for this team, but no, I'm not going to work on this Sunday for this team. And then it's, yeah, but that's not fair. You know, how come? You know, and I don't want that kind of conflict, and I don't want that kind of pressure, and I don't know how you resolve that. You know, but as far as being open on Sunday, if you want to have the rink open on Sunday, that's fine. You probably won't see me there.
Councillor Granger and then Mayor.
To me, this is simple. You relinquish the control to administration, you take it out of this room. I think there's some pluses there. And if you can't find an employee to do it, then it doesn't happen. To me, it's real simple. So under that scenario, give it to administration. They talk about the schedule 4 months ahead of time for playoffs and poll their employees to see if somebody's willing to do it. You have this pool of people that are okay with that. And then when the time comes, you go to them, right? So, but if for whatever reason nobody's available, then it doesn't happen. To me, it's real simple. Why make it more complicated? Get it out of this room. I agree that it should be in the hands of administration.
Mayor. And then we'll move on.
I have a question for administration. Jeff, Joshua, have you approached the association, the Employees Association, regarding the idea of working on Sunday on a regular basis when there is?
So we haven't had this formal discussion. We've been having our discussion about this under the current arrangement, which there is a clause that employees have an accelerated rate of pay if they work on Sundays. And so right now, the rate structure for minor hockey, for example, I'll use, they pay an accelerated, a higher rate to get that time. And then if the staff work that, they also get that higher rate. But we have not sat down to negotiate consistent, regular Sunday work by the full-time staff.
Okay, so we don't really know their position on that one.
No,
As a group.
and I do want to mention, Councillor Kenley, you brought up a very good and interesting point about the golf course. The one difference there is we have no association members that work at the golf course. It's all seasonal. And so it's a little different, and there's that piece of complexity doesn't
I guess
exist
they're
there.
all season.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
so it's
if-
just a touch different there.
If you don't mind me, there is then around the table different ideas that were presented. For example, the relinquishing the rights to make decision to administration regarding Sunday. But I also hear that if no one is willing to work, that then the event doesn't happen. But I don't think that's the way you at administration would view that. But I could be
think so.
wrong. Yours would be probably, yes, so-and-so will work on that day because there is a tournament coming, rather than to say, well, then nobody is willing to, but the tournament won't happen.
I think it's a matter of timing and planning. So, I do think we need to have higher utilization of our Saturdays, for example. So my position administratively is minor hockey, you need to utilize Saturdays better. I think that's planning and strategy and working with them. And then it's a matter of we've met with our staff well before the season. Maybe we know that there's no one willing at the beginning of the season, and they can't unlock the door without us there. They can't force a game without someone in the arena, right? And so, and if I have to be the bad guy, then I can be the bad guy. But the discussion would be we don't have available Sunday time. We've talked that over internally. We don't have any to offer you.
So that kind of would respect
Excuse
your
me, sorry.
position, Councillor Burton, that Sunday work is not.
Yeah, so the line in the sand for me would be the compulsion.
So that's exactly what I'm trying to understand.
Councillor Brown.
Would that be compulsive or would that be still on a voluntary base?
They answered my question, because I too struggle with, I don't want our staff compelled.
Yeah.
Yes, golf course, I get it, seasonal, great. They know what they signed up for. But for me, Joe Blow, who works for the town and has for, 20 years, you're now telling me I gotta work Sundays? I don't wanna do that. I'm not okay with that. So if we proceed the way you're saying, I'm all over it, as long as we're not compelling.
Did I
I
represent
agree.
that accurately, do you think?
Quick comment.
I was going to comment here. I was just going to ask when
Let him
okay.
finish.
Just to speak to your point, the employees under the association, yes, there's that rate there. But the way the practice has been is that it's optional for them. From a employment law perspective, yeah, the town couldn't then just change that without their consent. So, yeah, I can say that those conversations will be had.
Thank you.
in your hiring, I mean, I can't ask what your hiring process, but is Sunday's work talked about? Like, hey, you may be asked to work on a Sunday? Like, I don't know.
Sorry, what's the question?
Like when administration's hiring someone in rec or in anything,
Yeah.
are you available 7 days a week? Like, is that a conversation?
Yes,
Or-
the updated job descriptions everybody has state specifically if weekends or Sundays are required, yeah.
all three of you here, Councillor Burton, Councillor Court, Councillor Jensen, and then we're moving on.
Because the way I look at it is, Councillor Jensen's point, we want to let people use their free agency to choose to play hockey or not. But if to do that, I have to take away this guy's free agency, I'm no further ahead, right? So I look at it as, that's where I draw the line. Whether it's you making the decision, us making the decision, I don't want to compel anyone to work on Sunday.
Yeah, seems, yeah.
Thinking of future councils, which will be here in about 6 months, they'll be going through this exact same conversation unless we decide. That's why I would like to just put it in their laps and let them decide. Otherwise, this is going to go on and on every council that comes in. So that's my point.
Councillor Jensen.
Does it have to be a town employee? Like, could not this, is it still called the Spud League or anything? Could they not run the ice machine or open it up? It has to be a town employee.
Liability insurance.
Jeff.
The ice rink counselors.
There's gas, there's ammonia.
And so there is a high level of risk if something were to go wrong there. Was there a place for volunteers in that? In some aspects, maybe, but we have to be very, very cautious about that because we do ammonia plants, have a high level of training and risk mitigation if there's a problem. So we just have to be very careful with that. I'm not terribly comfortable without one of our staff members in a building if something were to go really wrong. The procedures, evacuation processes, all that isn't known maybe by the volunteers, and I want to be really, really careful.
Yeah. Staff members do we have that can run the ice rink?
Three.
Aren't they training a fourth one? I thought they were.
Yeah, we've got one other in another department who has been training with them. Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot.
This would be four.
Yes, we got.
Okay.
I was thinking someone else too, so maybe 4.5. Yeah.
If that is all for this one,
Okay.
And guys, one more thing, not to hijack Josh's presentation, but Councillor Court, you made an interesting point. And the thing with policies is, next council or the next one, if it's a topic that they collectively feel differently, they can take this policy back as a council policy.
Change it
I
totally.
can't
exactly
compel a
right.
council to keep it
No.
as an admin
No,
policy.
absolutely.
And so it's going to, this one particularly is
Yes,
going to ebb and flow
agreed.
based on councils of the day. for sure.
Absolutely.
awesome. Okay, moving on to 6A, other business, Egg Society Agreement Amendment, Jeff.
Yeah, so thank you to Councillor Burton for doing a lot of work on this too. You have an amendment, I already had this open. Since the delegation of the Ag Society, there was just a couple of things, almost all of them related to timing. Really is what we're looking at here, is what's the best time for things to make sure this relationship works well. So you have an amending agreement with really three main sections. The first is dealing with the contributed assets piece. So I was able to have a talk with the accountant for the Ag Society to say, look, you guys are a September 30th year end. The town is a December 31st year end. What's the best time for us to get those contributed assets and deal with them in the books? And they were very comfortable having a report to us by January 31st, which still allows us to deal with it in our calendar year. And the discussion was, in any year where there was a lot of capital work done, we would want to capture all that in our calendar year. And so the agreement between their accountant and us was January 31st. The next one is simply a timing on if there is material deficiencies that the Ag Society needs to resolve, what is the time frame for remedying those material deficiencies? The challenge with putting a hard timeline in there is, what's the complexity of that deficiency? Does it take a day to fix, or does it take 6 months to fix? I don't know. And so we settled on one of those catch-alls as mutually agreed by both parties. So if the town were to say, look, we're hearing that the HVAC isn't working and this is a huge problem and you've got to deal with this. It was identified in the study, you've got to deal with it. Well, when? We'll give you a year. Then fine, they agree. You've mutually agreed. So we were just trying to tidy that up on mutual agreement. And then the last was their reporting to council. So the discussion here, and this is accommodating kind of some seasonal events, it accommodates some other things, but there's an annual written report due to the town by April 30th. All of the documentation that they've been required to provide is still there. And then by May 31st, there is a delegation to council, is what that's specifying. So those are the three amendments proposed in this. So we can bring that back formally for approval at a future agreement, or future meeting, sorry, unless there's any feedback from council.
So you did an excellent job with that, Jeff. I would just add two things. One is that on the second point where we're agreeing to the time frame on a major deficiency, normally you don't leave it there, and it doesn't. The agreement has another paragraph that says, and if you can't agree, here's the resolution mechanism. Okay, so that's important. And then the last point about, so when they came and did their presentation, they were handing stuff out. We've put a month in there so that we get their report a month before they come, so that we can be better educated on what to ask or those types of things.
Good idea.
Anyone else on that one? Councillor Jensen?
Yeah, I just have a question on your 3B, the very last paragraph that's just right above where it says dated this blank day of June. And it says failure to report shall entitle the town to appoint a member of the town council to be a member of the society's board of directors, and such board member shall have all full slate of rights as have other board members, including the right to attend board meetings and to vote. I'm wondering if we want to add in there to receive minutes and correspondence, because going back to Councillor Granger's problem when he was on that council, on that board, he complained that he wasn't even being given the minutes or any correspondence or
They
anything.
weren't doing the minutes as well. That's one of the reasons I didn't get them, is they weren't doing them, which was a requirement.
But you also weren't receiving any correspondence as to when meetings were being held or anything like that. So I was just wondering if we wanted to add that in there. But
Councillor Burton?
So I think, Councillor Jensen, when it says, such board member shall have the full slate of rights as have other board members. So if you
is
stop right
exactly
there,
right.
one of those rights
Is
is
to have minutes.
to have access to all the minutes, blah, blah, blah.
And correspondence.
And
yes,
then it says including, so we've included some things, but that implies that you have this comprehensive bundle, and we're just saying including the right to vote. And the reason is, they had this weird thing where they were electing 9 people, so they're supposed to have 9 council members. So they had 9 plus our 1. And the question was, well, can that guy vote? Like it was round peg, square hole kind of thing. So that's the only reason that we added the right to vote, because there was some historical context there. But I think saying we have the full slate of rights, that's clearly one of the rights that you have.
Exactly right.
So we don't really want to.
Anyone else on this one?
Right. So the only reason we're showing up is if they're not reporting, and they're anxious to report. Like they were pleased with how the meeting went with us, and we were pleased with how the meeting went with them, and I think this will go well.
Okay.
Okay, well, we'll bring that back for formal adoption next meeting.
All right. Man, that Egg Society has made a 180, I tell you. It's doing
Oh.
good.
It's really a well-run
Knock on wood.
committee,
that's
that
right.
one.
All right, moving on to 6B, the traffic analysis.
Yeah, for the information of council, so you had given administration some
Yeah,
feedback on traffic pieces.
All
The CPO met with the driving instructor and the RCMP, and so we just really kind of formalized the list in a table. We put some rough numbers to what each thing would cost to implement. We prioritize them. This is, I said in my background, this is our interpretation of priority. If you disagree, please tell me. This is not a finalized document. And then our intent here is just to start picking away based on priority.
Let's just put flashing lights on every corner.
Light it up like Christmas.
I really appreciate the work that was done there. The table is really interesting, the priorities that you picked. What I was wondering is, over what period of time, budget-wise, Do you have an idea what you're looking at? 1 year, 2 years, 3 years?
I would say it's we haven't said it's gonna be this
multi-years.
exactly, it's multiple years.
Yeah,
Now, some of
okay.
the low-hanging fruit is just
Yeah, the
changing a sign, adding a
$500
sign.
and thing like that.
You know,
right,
no problem.
okay.
And my $500, by the way, is sign, pole, hydrovac, installation,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
and it's just a round number. There's not a lot of study behind that number. The only ones we had quotes on were the flashing. We knew those are $15,000 a
yeah,
set.
right.
So, by the way, in case you're wondering, the Main Street and Fourth is not on this list, but that's because it's in budget.
It's, yeah.
So it's
we knew
approved
that,
and it's
yeah,
moving forward. So I didn't have it on this table.
Yeah,
Councillor Brown, Councillor Burton, Councillor Granger.
So some of this, I didn't have a hot clue, because, wow, some of it, of course, I've heard about. The only small one that I would add, and that would be, is to get signage at the top and bottom of the walking path for no horses.
Isn't it already there?
No, it's not. It says it over
thought it
along
was.
no.
I think it is,
walk
but
that
at my
every
place
day.
it might be, but down there
On
it's not.
7th and 9th, I think
So
it
what I
is.
can tell you is, at the
it's
top of
on
the
mine, but
hill
not
where
on
they're
that.
coming on, there's nothing. It just says, because I looked for it today. So as you come on to the top of that hill, it just says, you know, use the pathway at your own discretion. And it says that at the bottom of the hill, down by the golf course. And if you stick on that path, nowhere does it say the whole horse thing. And the reason is I had somebody light me up about it recently because there were horses on it and they wouldn't get off it for the seniors that were walking. And they said, you can't have them on here. And they said, show me where it says that. And so I was like, yeah, well, let me see.
Called common sense.
And
Classy.
anyway, and it does destroy our path.
Mm-hmm.
So if we could just have one at the top and the bottom, I think that would be appropriate.
Right.
I just do.
I'm on it every day, so.
I think Councillor.
And I don't think it's a huge ask. Like, I don't know what those are, but
Councillor Granger.
So, sorry, I apologize in advance, this is the traffic engineer talking. The priorities of these, in terms of a concern about liability, would be that if any of these or any other examples, in terms of improved signage or a sign that's missing particularly, if that is contrary to the Roads and Transportation Association of Canada's Uniform Traffic Signal Device, which is, that manual is for signage, if we've got something that doesn't conform to that, I would suggest to you that our liability is increased. And so the priority in terms of signs should be some reference like that, and I believe that's embedded in our bylaws because we follow the engineering standards of Lethbridge, which is also Calgary, that where the RTAC traffic sign manual that I referenced is the Bible. And so I would suggest that somebody, and if you want some help, I could help you with this, go through this list and identify those ones that are contrary to RTAC, and those should be a priority, in fact, an immediate priority. Because if something happened, an accident and loss of property or worse, life, that, and I'm not a lawyer, but that could come back on us because that's one of our own standards that we're missing.
Especially after you've publicly stated that, then. Now we're in.
My plausible deniability
Penny
is
into a
gone, Councillor.
pound.
now.
When you're a professional engineer, you're required by law to do
right.
so.
Councillor Burton, Councillor Jensen.
So some of these questions it's still really hard for me to drive in town and look at street signs and things. I couldn't do it. So if it's on here, forgive me. When you go up to the junior high, I know one of these reports was, well, they're still doing U-turns and things. There is a U-turn sign, a no U-turn sign there and things. There's the slower speed limit, so I think that's an enforcement issue. But when I raised that issue, my concern is as you're going up the hill to the east, just as you crest it, there's the what amounts to as crosswalk before you get to the school. So Sunday morning, we have kids going across there to go to church, and it's just a spot that I don't think is on this list, because
So-
it's before you get to the school. It's
Yeah,
the intersection by the
We
church.
do have Fifth Avenue East, top of hill on 3rd Street Street East intersection, concerns with sightlines and visibility.
Okay.
I just have a TBD next to that because Leor came back and he's like,
determined.
I don't really know what the right answer is there, aside from trying to prohibit crossing on the west side of that intersection.
No, I know.
But I'm not
It
exactly.
won't happen.
Right,
Even-
right, it
Even if we
won't.
prohibit it, the kids
Yeah.
will still be there.
Yeah,
Like, and
But
I've,
maybe a
I've had some
flashing light?
close calls right there.
yeah.
Flashing light,
Something, I don't know.
bigger than what there is right
But
now.
it, yeah, anyway, to be determined, we should determine something, I guess. Okay, and thank you. And then the second one is, you know, I agree with Councillor Granger's comments. My other priority is kids. And so, you know, around the elementary school, you'd made the comment, Jeff, a couple of meetings ago, like, where does it stop, right? Like,
Yeah,
you know, there are lots of kids going on lots of intersections. But if there were one or two intersections that
but
just
there
had a
is-
bunch of kids, like this says in the dark, I'd hope that we could put a flashing across, you know, the flashers there on the crosswalk.
But I thought there is.
Well, it lists some, and it's like medium priority or low
Yeah,
priority.
we had them nice
or-
to have, you know, there's
Yeah,
already
nice to have.
crosswalks and stop signs
Mm-hmm.
on most of all those. So it's not like they're uncontrolled.
Yeah, so I don't know, like, I don't know the detail, but, you know, with a bunch of kids, to me, that's a really high priority compared to other things.
Agreed.
And then the trees as you cross the Third Avenue Bridge, it is the trees would really help. And I was gonna go cut them down myself with that, well, I'll probably fall and get a concussion, so I didn't.
Good.
But like, that's such an easy fix
Well, that's,
that I'd hate to see that as a medium or low priority. Somebody could go out tomorrow morning and, you know, in half an hour, the problem's fixed for very low cost.
yeah.
Then my last one that I would add, yeah,
I was waiting for them to cut them all down.
they haven't dared show up with those
I
boulders.
saw one right by extra, or what's popping.
Yeah, they moved down. So anyway, the last one,
Happy.
south of the provincial building, so I guess that's Fifth Avenue.
Yeah.
So again, going up the hill, as you turn off Main Street, and there's that curved
Yeah.
road there. So it doesn't get widened to a full sidewalk and everything till you're past my corner, like where Barfuses live and stuff. There it's wider. The street is narrower, and people are parking there. And there's not enough room. Somebody's gonna have an accident there because, so there's the one house that faces north.
So they're on the north side of the avenue
Yeah.
facing west. Would that
Fa-
sound the
facing
most
south.
common?
South side.
Facing
They're on the south side.
Yeah, so they're on the side that leads to Main Street.
So that's the north side.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, the north side of the block, south side of the street.
The provincial side of the street,
No, the other side.
which is
Now
the
we
north
know.
side.
North side.
North side.
Oh, yes, north.
On the side of the mountain.
Back to that concussion.
You dropped your
Yes, back to the concussion. So yes, the north side of the street. So one, it's curved there. Two, there's a great big tree that needs to be pulled way back that blocks your view of vehicles there. And it's just too narrow. So somebody's, you know, it's not a full width of his normal street there. So I'm suggesting
Yeah.
that you can't park along there except for the parade. Everybody parks along there, but other than that, normally, I don't think we should have parking there. Especially in the winter, somebody's gonna slide around and hit
Councillor
those.
Jensen, Councillor Granger, and then I have a spot, and then we'll get some dinner.
Okay.
Yeah, 3.5 years ago, a gentleman came to me and with a suggestion, and I'm pretty sure I told you, Jeff, at the time, and I'm not sure if it's on here or not because I can't remember. I've got a really good memory, but I cannot remember the street address anymore. But I was changing a yield sign to a stop sign, so I just want to. I will contact him
Is that on
again.
7th and 2nd at the Cobblestone?
I can't quite remember, but it was
Okay.
anyway. I'll talk to you about it further, but I just want to know I can add it. Can I?
Yeah, like I said,
okay.
this is a living
Okay.
document. We were just trying to prioritize things, yeah.
Okay.
Councillor Granger?
So back to the Fifth Avenue hill there, I drive it probably 4 times a day to get to my place, but it's probably one of the worst sight distance locations in all of the town. can't imagine what engineer designed that road and didn't have an engineer design.
We
it.
can't
Was
either.
not you, councillor.
Wasn't me.
Yeah, we can't either.
So, and then there is a sign as you come up the hill, and I can't remember what it is, but.
Line something or hidden
Yeah,
intersection
I
maybe?
think we need to do more than that. I think what you can do is,
Lights everywhere.
put a full activated crosswalk for the kids to use with push buttons and, that's expensive, but we're talking about kids' safety, because a lot of kids use that, not
do.
just going to church, but every
Yep.
day,
Yep, 3:15, it's
three, four
kids
times a
everywhere.
day, back and forth to those schools, to the school, and, so fully activate, pedestrian, with also a flashing light down the hill that's warning the person. Right now, there's a stop condition there. You may want to consider making that a four-way stop. I think it's just a three-way right now.
I think they would be backed up on the hill,
Ooh,
no?
that
That's
would-
the
that's
problem.
getting nasty.
Yeah,
Hill and the
yeah,
ice.
yeah.
It wouldn't work.
I don't know.
Well, if you're
You're
trying, you can't
In
see.
the winter, it
I'm
would
a-
be
You
so
cannot see,
dreadful.
so there's a liability
But
issue.
your flashing light, I can see those from I can see those from all the way from Main Street, so that's a good
Flashing
solution.
lights there might be a good idea.
So anyway, we gotta do something more than what we're doing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't meet TAC, our TAC, and, I think there's a liability issue there. So
My
amazing-
only, are you, sorry. you can-
Just the last thing was amazing, nobody's been hurt there.
My only recommendation is to please change the yield sign to a stop sign by Mr. Beezer's house.
Mr. Beast.
I have almost gotten T-boned there.
Rod.
Rod Beezer, sorry.
Fourth-
I've almost gotten,
yeah,
T-
Fourth
it's coming from the
Street
highway.
and
I don't know
Second
what it
Avenue,
is,
right?
but people
Yeah.
blow that intersection
Yes.
like crazy.
100% do.
The rest of them have stop
I
signs
don't know
on them.
what, if they're just still going fast off the
Right.
highway, but multiple times coming home from the hospital, I've almost been T-boned there.
But TAC would say it's supposed to be a stop sign.
Well, then it should
You
be.
go up and down the street, there's stop signs on
Anyways,
most of them.
that's my recommendation. I hope it happens before October. Anyways, I'll take a motion to have a 15-minute break. Counselor Brown, all in favor? Thank you.
Talking United Church, Rod Beezer corner.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
It is brutal, both ways. I don't know why.
Really?
Twice, I've just like going home for lunch and just, boom, right through.
There's been I've seen accidents
You
here
know,
before.
one area that today I was very surprised, never happened to me before. On the front of the home hardware, there is a
Alexis been talking
flashing.
about it.
I don't remember.
Let's come back here. I'll,
Make a
Counselor,
motion to reconvene.
motion to reconvene, all in favor?
We'll be done with flashing lights.
All right, some correspondence here. Flashing lights, yeah, no. Peter Casurella, excuse me, has sent out an invitation for their, let's see here,
AGM.
AGM on June 19th. SouthGrow, I don't know who sits on that, I forget.
Councillor Jensen.
Councillor Jensen, are you able to attend,
Yeah, I'll be attending
attending that? Okay,
Whereabouts is it?
Coaldale.
Coaldale Civic Square. Anything on that, anyone? No? Next one is from Kim Simmonds. Any discussion on that? Any questions from anyone? Okay. And then 8C, Jeff can kind of speak to this a little bit.
Just, Sandy at the golf course wanted to get the ball rolling on licensing at the golf course. I'm not exactly sure how that'll play out with the existing facility, but he wanted to look at seeing if he could do something limited over the rest of the summer, probably just run the cart or do something limited there. So they will have, when they get to MPC, they have some SEPTED requirements that need to be satisfied still, that I don't believe are done. And so we'll see how that plays out. But I wanted to I don't normally bring these to council, but being it was a town application, I just brought it so you're aware that it's happening.
Can I just ask or say that I don't want them to put any money into that building?
Right, yeah,
That's just my opinion, so.
yeah.
Don't tell Sandy I said that. All right, that concludes our public portion of the meeting. I will take a motion for private, or not private, closed session. Mayor, motion for closed session, all in favor? Thank you.
Maggie, did you get a schedule for tomorrow?
You go
I
ahead and
make a
make the
motion to
motion.
come out of closed session.
All right, all in favor?
You got 8 seconds. and
One
we're
more
over time.
motion.
No need to extend.
I make it.
Motion to adjourn, all in favor?
Made it by 2 seconds.
Good for you, Counselor.